We're here in Miami Beach with, I'm such a fan, Jeff Booth, the author of Price of Tomorrow and GP at Ego Death Capital. Thank you so much for joining me, Jeff.
No problem.
I really, really appreciate it.
Great to be here, and oh, what a beautiful spot.
Well, thanks for coming. I've been enjoying our conversations so much. Every single time, you absolutely blow my mind. I think what I've been going through recently, and just kind of like my Bitcoin journey, is the idea of inflation and how much it's like ruined society. And I guess my first question to you is, what a lot of people look up on YouTube is, how much Bitcoin do you truly need to retire?
I don't think very much. It depends on how long you can hold it, but I think it's, and I don't want this to be clickbaity, so please don't put this in the title, but I think it'll have infinite purchasing power eventually. And I can walk through why if you'd like.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if you said the current, all assets in the world currently equal about $900 trillion. Underneath those assets is about $600 trillion of debt, if you include all of the liabilities and unfunded liabilities, but 600 trillion. And so if that debt went insolvent, all of those assets are worthless, right? Because everything would collapse. So people are measuring their assets within a system that debt is already insolvent, and they're pretending that debt is solvent. That debt requires more and more manipulation of money forever, exponentially more manipulation of money, so that the assets don't collapse and everything within that system doesn't collapse. So we're at the almost end of days. It could go on a bunch longer, but that system is getting more and more centralized, more and more controlled, and because it has to. We'll go into that afterwards. But every single asset, so instead of thinking 900 trillion of assets, think my house within that, this building within that. Well, if that debt went insolvent, this place would be worth nothing, like nothing, right? So there would be complete chaos. And so what does that say to you? It says it won't go insolvent in that way, because you wouldn't let it. If a government allowed the debt to completely collapse and everything to collapse and it to be anarchy in that way, every last man for himself, you would, before that happened, vote for more centralization and control. You wouldn't let the bank fail. So when I say it's going to collapse to zero, it won't collapse to zero. And instead, there will be liquidation, more and more manipulation of money. So from Bitcoin's perspective, if you just said, you have an open, decentralized, secure protocol bounded by energy. And that's my kind of 5 criteria on what this is. So that system bounded by energy, as long as it stays decentralized and secure, the only thing that would change this is if somehow Bitcoin broke and wasn't decentralized and secure. But that system bounded by energy will reprice all $900 trillion of assets. All. Bitcoin isn't within the system, it's outside the system, bounded by energy. There's a really important differentiation. You know this, many Bitcoiners know this, but many Bitcoiners know it, and at the same time, they're pricing it as an asset within the system. Okay. So it's outside. If you hold it in self-custody, if it stays decentralized and secure, bounded by energy, it is repricing that entire system over time. So what does that mean? So you take that 900 trillion today of purchasing power, not 900 trillion of paper money, of purchasing power, and you divide it by 21 million. Or if you said that how many lost coins, you divide it by a smaller number. But let's say that number equals 43 million. Approximately 43 million of purchasing power in today's currency of Bitcoin. But what would happen from that system? From that system, you're living in the first global free market that has ever existed. And from that system, prices fall every year. Prices, as we automate, as AI moves faster and faster, as AI merges with robotics, as the free market adds more people to the free market, and those ideas compete to provide us value, prices fall forever relative to that 43 million. So that 43 million gains more and more value forever. So if you had a small percentage of a Bitcoin in time, that would be enough to live forever. And it's just, all we're talking about is the timing of when that happens, rather than does that happen. So
I think, and I appreciate our conversation so much, Jeff, because I think you take me out of that perspective. I mean, it's very difficult. You're the one that actually told me this. It's very difficult to imagine that system within the existing system.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
It isn't in the system. In other words, you have to use first principles and then ask what will happen because of that, what will happen because of that, what will happen because of that. Because when I think about this, I think about all of our mental lattice, all of our books, every single other thing we've ever written is within the system. We've always lived in a control system. It's never been a global free market. We've always co-opted money. When people say gold is actually the store of value, it hasn't. It's failed many times. It gets repriced, it gets centralized. If gold was actually the price that the free market says it is, it should be about $80,000 an ounce. So it's suppressed through derivative instruments. It's suppressed. Nobody knows how much gold each central bank has, and you have a paper currency on top. The gold isn't audited every 10 minutes. So we pretend it acted like a store of value because it acted like a better store of value than other stores of values.
Yeah.
But we don't have a mental model for what a real store of value, or not a store of value, a real network protocol bounded by energy looks like, because all of the stuff is in our mind is in this other system.
What's stopping Bitcoin from not following in the footsteps of gold in terms of it potentially being captured? And I'll give a little bit of context. We have 3% of the supply apparently owned by MicroStrategy. The vast majority of the ETFs are custodying their Bitcoin with Coinbase. It's a tremendous amount of trust, right? And just one institution really that's custodying the Bitcoin for all of these institutions, all the these public companies as well. Isn't that exactly what happened to gold?
It's a really good, exactly, and it's a really good question because of that. And because of that, it should break your mind out of the trap that it's in. It won't for all Bitcoiners, but it will for some, and over time. But I put a bar, at least for me in Bitcoin, when how I keep saying over and over and over again, if it stays decentralized and secure. That's my caveat to Bitcoin, repricing the entire system. What would not make it stay decentralized and secure? One of the things is exactly what you talk about. If in over 5,000 years in history, we've always centralized, and we've always believed that inflation is natural and deflation is unnatural, then it's not Bitcoin, it's us that centralizes.
Is it human nature?
It's human nature. It's greed, fear, and fear. In fact, a lot of control mechanisms are created by creating fear in us. That then we give our control, we give our time away through fear because somebody else will protect us. Right, and so that's an age-old trick. It's how false flags work. It's how so to be able to create that fear. If I knew everything about Bitcoin and I couldn't stop it every other way, I did social attacks, I did climate. It's bad for the climate. I did all of these things. If I couldn't stop it, what I would do is I would try to co-opt it. If I knew everything that I knew, and I was an adversary, I would try to co-opt it. I would say, I'm so for this. We're going to regulate it to make sure that our country wins on it. And I would get people to trust my centralized coin because it was safe, right?
That sounds very familiar, Jeff.
So all of the actions that we see here, and then what would those people be doing? What those people would be doing over time, many of the Bitcoiners today would make so much money in that centralized system that they wouldn't be Bitcoiners anymore. Right? They would be trading their, I've won, they would move over this. They would be moving out of self-custody
into the system.
Trading the system to trade their Bitcoin for a piece of paper. And the Bitcoin would be centralizing as a matter of fact. And it would seem so normal because they were pricing from a fiat system, and that fiat system had to drive inflation.
Yeah.
So it had to centralize at a faster and faster rate. But because they would think they were getting rich within that system, it would co-opt them into that system. And I think many, many Bitcoiners are going to do that along the way, and they're going to sell, they'll do okay, everything else, and they won't be Bitcoiners. The question is how many more join and understand what Bitcoin really is for humanity?
Yeah.
How many people keep going? Because most of those people that do that don't run nodes. They're deferring their judgment to somebody else. And the people that run nodes, and more so in time, it'll be economic nodes. And how many transactions, what do those look like on the network? Those are the gatekeepers to Bitcoin. So now let's just keep playing this over. And this is why I talk about this all the time, because the two systems are incompatible. If you're measuring from this fiat system, the price go up, you are part of the centralization. I can't say that any other way. It is a first principle. You are part of centralization. Right?
Yeah.
As you really come to understand Bitcoin and you become a node, you become someone at the gate defending this. Sovereign. You become, nobody tells me what to do. You realize that you're one of the people that is protecting all of humanity, moving into a system of hope, truth, and abundance. Most people don't know that. Some will know, some are going to get killed on the way through or destroyed on the way through, but you're moving your time into a system that's a competitive, cooperative, global system. So it's still competitive. The free market is massively competitive. You have to provide value to somebody else on their terms to get paid. But everybody wins by that. And the more people in it, more people win. Because it's, what I'm saying is so unclear to most people. Right? They're still measuring Bitcoin by the other system. They're measuring prices in the other system. They're giving more control. Everything they're doing is feeding a narrative, left or right. And, well, everything in that is sucking out more of their power.
And energy.
And time. But they don't know it. So they're like, that's going to continue to happen. But as long as Bitcoin stays decentralized and secure, in other words, those nodes don't accept the control system, what would happen when that control system says, we're changing? It has to be the fiat Bitcoin. It would look like Bcash on steroids.
Yeah.
Right. It would look like 2017 on steroids. And in the first little bit, there would be a lot of people and threats of you have to convert. Right. But as long as those nodes and people and all over the world, and if you think about game theory here, I doubt that system. So that would be hyper Bitcoinization. That system trying to attack. Trying to attack Bitcoin, I suspect that system would then be liquidated.
It reveals the man behind the curtain, in a way, right? And in a way, it reveals the fact that despite governments having a monopoly on violence, their attempts become futile if Bitcoin remains decentralized and secure. Now, when I was preparing the questions for this interview and just when you're talking to me, it seems like, Jeff, what you're describing is that there inevitably is going to be some type of clash between the previous system, the existing system, the controlling system, and the system that we all want, which is Bitcoin.
And when you say we all want, I don't know if people have thought that many steps ahead, right? And so I know you want it, I know I want it, and we're public figures, and I know tons of other people. Most of the people running nodes, I know what they want, and they're not going to, but if you ask most people on the street, they still think Bitcoin's a scam.
Well, they're worried about the left and the right.
They're worried, and they don't understand. And the first step into Bitcoin, it is normally price go up. Right, I'm making more money, right? And so it's how many people, I just think about this as a giant funnel with 8 billion people on the planet. And as you go deeper and deeper into Bitcoin, you never go back up. Because going back to the other system after you really understand this one, it actually doesn't say anything about Bitcoin.
It says something about you.
It says something about you. But we also know throughout history, people cheat. And when I say cheat, I'm talking about from a game theoretical perspective. People will do what they need to do for their family, for their money, and they will say, I have enough, I can escape. but there is no escape from a centralizing system. So what you'd ask there, that clash, it's inevitable, and that clash has been going on over and over and over since Bitcoin was discovered or invented. There's been a centralized system, a control system, cannot allow Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Can't, because they're two different systems. You almost have to say it 1,000 times to yourself. The natural state of the free market is deflation.
Yeah.
Which means you've never lived in one.
No.
Never. No, you don't have.
Unless you've been denominating your net worth in Bitcoin, you have been experiencing that.
You're living on one.
Yes.
You're living in the first global free market that has ever existed. And as more and more people in this network, as more and more people build to it and move their time to it, we are both the map and the territory. It starts to expand, and you start to see a totally different experience than most people over here measuring their control system see. And you look at them and you think, for me too, for a long time, am I the crazy one?
Yeah.
Then I go back, and 10 years ago, I didn't really know this much about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And so I was in that system thinking I was in a normal system.
Yeah.
And so it takes a while to really understand that.
Absolutely. I think you got to pay your dues. You got to stick around a couple cycles.
Yeah.
You got to endure the volatility.
Yeah.
You got to earn your stripes. You got to have your Bitcoin in self-custody.
Yeah.
To have many heart attacks when your hardware wallet breaks and you got to recover the seed phrase.
Yeah.
And, set up a multi-sig on your own and, pay your dues as a Bitcoiner, and then you understand the sovereignty that it gives you.
Yeah.
And then you imagine the world where, I know it's cliche, but I'm going to use the reference anyway, you understand how many people are still in the matrix. And my next question to you is, the phenomenon of inflation being treated as if it's part of nature, the way that politicians talk about it, like the excuses, the war in Ukraine, it's the trade war, it's this, they blame everything and anything but themselves, and people buy into it. And my whole view of politics has completely changed, because the way that I'm seeing it now as a Bitcoiner is modern politics is essentially a popularity contest, and the winner essentially controls the money printer for their side, right? That's what it looks like from my angle. So my question to you is, when does this psyop end? So many people believe that inflation is just a fact of life. Goods go up over time naturally. They don't even question it.
Yeah, and so where does that come from, and where does that psyop end? And if it's been part of our history for 5,000 years and people believe it, that's why I said they have to ask, or they have to say the natural state of the free market is deflation 1,000 times. And they have to keep saying it, because when I say that, I didn't say from zero inflation. Somehow politicians and economists get productivity growth mixed up with growth. Productivity growth has faster deflation. And so people talk about this AI, that as we create more AI, we're going to be able to pay back the debt. It's so insane. Yeah. As we create more AI, you have faster deflation, which causes the debt to default, which means you have to create more monetary units, which is exactly what I laid out in my book. Yeah. So natural rate of deflation from a free market should be over 5% right now.
Yeah.
Meaning every human being on Earth would get richer by 5% a year.
Every single year.
Every single human being in Africa, in South America, every single human being on Earth would get rich by that.
But the implications of that are very serious, because if they're not getting richer by 5% every single year, who is getting richer?
Well, so the point, that's the point. That all centralizes in the puppeteers behind. Now, it's easy to say it's those people. If you had a centralizing force like that, you were at the top of that, you'd spend all your time trying to retain power in that and manipulating time and but it's more why I try to keep saying there is no they, because what gives rise to that is us. It's not them, it's us believing that is normal. If you just start with the natural state of the free market is deflation, you have to ask, where does inflation come from? And I'm not talking about inflation from zero. I'm talking from the inflation from -5 or -10 or whatever the productivity rate is in the world. Where does inflation come from? It only comes from one thing: manipulation of money.
Yeah.
Only. And I don't think many people have many Bitcoiners have gone down that path. Very few people have really gone to the bottom of what does that mean? What does it mean for me if I'm measuring in that system? Because I'm contributing to that system.
Yep.
And then the more I do in that system, and the more I think it's somebody else, turn the mirror around, the more it's me.
Yeah, right. The more focus and attention you're putting towards it. Would it be safe to say, and one of the things that I see is, and it's fascinating to me, again, from a Bitcoiner's perspective, the opposing parties, essentially the politicians blaming the opposing side for rising prices, which is hilarious to me. And my question to you is, do governments fear falling prices themselves? Because it's like people are like seeking the solution from the wolf, right?
So instead of just saying government, you know, because Bitcoin is that people are trapped in a jail cell, right? Screaming at their, and I've said this many times, screaming at their captor while the jail cell is open because you have an open monetary, you have an open protocol. So they just would walk over any single person on the planet. So when we talk about would politicians see this, or would this person see this, or we just have to say, would you, right? Would every person see this? And I would venture to say a lot of Bitcoiners right now who call themselves Bitcoiners still don't know, right? And still they would fall for these traps, those people, and they would give that more energy because they're still measuring in a fiat currency.
Yeah.
They're still measuring in price go up.
Yeah.
Right. They're still centralizing. They're essentially moving from self-custody to non-self-custody to trade a derivative instrument. In other words, they're increasing their risk to move to the centralized system.
Yeah.
And so if many Bitcoiners are still doing this, and of course politicians, of course other people who don't know this yet are doing it. And this is why the system change is so chaotic and so hard, because it's actually not the system, it's us. It's our cognitive dissonance of where we're going to spend our time. And that's happening to 8 billion people on the planet, and it's going to take time. Right? And a lot of people are going to fight this. So what would you expect to happen from this? If you've always lived in a system of theft, always, and that system had to centralize more and more because it's based on stealing that productivity that should flow to all humans and centralizing it up, then you have to ask who would win from such a system. And if you're giving more power to that system and complaining about the people who are winning from that system, maybe it's not them, it's you.
The power comes
Power comes from us.
The power comes from people choosing to participate in that said system with their voice, their time, and their money. If we all, as I hate to use the word collective, but as a whole, decide to opt out and just to participate in the alternative system, it takes power away from that system.
They're incompatible together.
Okay.
One has to, so all the centralization, so when people say, I'm not going to do this because I'm worried about what the government will do later, they're feeding their worst fear. They're in a zero-sum game, getting worse and worse and worse, and their fear is stopping them from moving to self-sovereign.
What is the role of government in a world on a Bitcoin standard?
It gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller as more of the productivity units move to the population forever. Now, why this is a hard thing to understand is all of these changes don't happen. One day we're on one system, one day we're in another, and everything resolves itself. It's constant resolving. But if you just ask yourself, or most Bitcoiners that have gone deep down in the rabbit hole, if you ask them, what does their life look like today versus what it looked like before? They would all generally say when they get to that point, what a beautiful, incredible relationships, everything. Their life is getting better and better and better. And I think this is also what creates some inside those Bitcoiners pushing harder and harder on their friends to try to get them to understand, and sometimes pushing their friends away because it's so incompatible. The ideas are so incompatible because they want to help their friends and feel what they feel, and then as they feel it, they just move to a lot of times a different group of friends, and through that system and how chaotic that's going to be on it. Like if you just ask, what would it look like? Many of these people will try to cheat the system. because they don't have any recognition. So if you think of it, FTX, if you think of all of these things, if you think of Ethereum, if Vitalik just bought Bitcoin instead of, he was an early Bitcoiner.
Yeah.
He would own more Bitcoin than if he had the, so all of the people who've tried to cheat Bitcoin would have been better if they just held Bitcoin. If you look at Coinbase.
Oh my, Coinbase versus MicroStrategy, that's a tragedy.
It's a tragedy,
That's
but
a tragedy.
it's a perfect representation of somebody trying to cheat a free market. And all of the song and dance. So again, as this happens, why do we care? If you don't have to. If you move into the cooperative competitive system, you're protected from all of that. And you know lots of human nature is going to try to cheat this system. You know the human nature is going to get ruined by trusting the centralized system. And you know for sure these systems are incompatible together. So how would it play out? So you asked about the government and what the government will get smaller and smaller. How will the government get smaller and smaller? Because there's always been a global competition for labor and capital. Where will the best capital be? It'll be in Bitcoin. Where will the best talent be? It'll be in Bitcoin. And in this I'm talking about Bitcoin, the protocol, and all of the people building in the free market, the protocol. And governments are going to want to attract that capital and talent. So they're going to offer policies to get more on side with attracting that. And then other governments are going to offer more competitive policies to try to attract that. And what will that mean? It'll mean the centralized system, how bloated their governments are, have to come back in line. And it'll be a global competition that'll keep on going forever. And so it won't look like a light switch, one day this, one day
it's going to be messy.
It's going to be messy and chaotic the whole way through.
And I think it is with certain political ideologies today that are very popular, what you're describing is essentially a pure free market. Some ideologies really believe in the idea of equality via wealth redistribution. And this is very popular in modern day politics. Bitcoin essentially kind of makes that very difficult, does it not?
It makes it impossible. So the only thing, at least, and I'm willing to debate anybody on this, on how they're, from a first principle, how their policy could possibly work. If the rise of inequality is from printing money, which is theft from the free market, how could you fix inequality with more theft? I would venture to say anybody listening to your podcast that's not a Bitcoiner yet, I asked this question to many people and I said, pick your problem you care about most in the world, right? Whatever that is, and it's taking all your time and attention. And tell me how that problem is solved by arbitrarily creating more monetary units. Just more pieces of paper. Can that problem be solved? And when people are honest with themselves, I realize that problem gets worse. And then they start to see all of their imagined problems in the world are getting worse. If they go back 10 years or 20 years, and all these things they care about are getting worse and worse and worse. And so, okay, why are they getting worse? Because we're printing more money. So we're going to print more money and that's going to get better, right? So because you're arbitrarily favoring the assets because the assets are holding value better. Yeah. And then those assets are taxed higher and higher and higher. So the government gets bigger, more and more policy, more and more manipulating the free market to redistribute the same problem you caused in the first place. Yeah. No, let's compare that to Bitcoin, or let's compare that to the first global free market that ever existed. What that means is you have to create value in somebody else's terms to get to be paid. It's a crazy competitive process because you're competing with every person on the planet to create value for somebody else. The output of that is because all of those ideas come from our minds to create this value. As human beings through the free market, we are abundance creating machines out of scarcity. Because anything that's scarce has a higher margin, which attracts more entrepreneurs and different ideas to attack that scarcity. And that process has to be deflation because we only use the things that provide us more value. We're a part of that. So in other words, in the free market, there's no coercion, there's no force, there's nothing. You're choosing when and how and what is of value to you. you'll trade with somebody you don't like because they provide more value. You don't need a middle person. You don't need a middle person to tell you you can't trade with that person. Right? You'll trade with whoever you want to provide more value. And that force is unstoppable anyways. It doesn't matter. Bitcoin is imposing that because it's decentralized, secure, bounded by energy, protocol bounded by energy. It's imposing that force. It doesn't actually matter that I care that it's imposing that force. It's imposing that force in the world today. But I would ask people who don't even know what I just said there, why would you want to stop that?
Yeah.
Why would you want to?
Human nature.
Yeah, exactly. Why would? Who is?
I would say human nature. I would say human nature and the lack of education, and also I've worked in media. Narratives are extremely powerful.
And maybe we just need better narratives, or maybe we just need to repeat these narratives over and over and over again. Because if you repeat, the natural state of the free market is deflation. And unless you can disprove that, it means you live in a control system.
Yeah.
Every single human lives in a control system, and their argument around capitalism or Marxism or totalitarianism or socialism, all of those are a different version of a control system that ultimately relies on my guy's better than your guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Fights forever, wars forever,
Bitcoin is basically
forever.
like
It cuts through all of it.
there is no guy.
There is no guy.
So what would you say to people that they see the US government announcing a strategic Bitcoin reserve, they see BlackRock, they see MicroStrategy, they see the price of Bitcoin, roughly in the 80 to 100K, 120K region, and, they believe like, I make 50K a year. I've missed this train. I've missed this opportunity. Look at this, what's the latest thing now? I think it's meme coins, right? Look at this
Trump coin.
Yeah, exactly, right? Look at this Trump coin. Like, I could buy more Trump coin than I can Bitcoin. So, are people still late? Are people still late to Bitcoin? Are people late to Bitcoin?
We started this podcast with it's going to have infinity in value. As it does, a lot of those Bitcoiners trading in Bitcoin will trade their Bitcoin for services that provide them value, and it'll expand around the world. And more and more and more and more. We are so early on this path. Is there a perception we're late? There's a perception we're late. It's just perception. And what that's saying is we're so early on this path that this is going to be, it's going to just be chaotic. It's just going to be really chaotic, and most people, and many people won't know how early. And maybe they'll be the same when I thought I was late, right? In 2017, because my technology team told me in 2011, and I dismissed it. When I first was in too, I thought I was late. And when you look around at the world and you realize, wait, there's not 8 billion people talking about this yet, right? We're talking about what this is. We are so crazy early. But will most people know that? No, most people won't know that.
It's really interesting that you brought up when you got in, because I got in roughly the same time, 2016, 2017 era. And I remember I knew people that got in at $50 or $100 and $200. And I was like, what do you mean? Like Bitcoin's at $1,000 or Bitcoin's at 3,000? Like, the hell no. Like, this is insanity. And now, sitting at these upper bounds and, crosses six figures for a little bit, you're just like, what was I thinking? Why shouldn't I back up? I should have like taken out loans, mortgages, like anything possible, right?
Totally.
So yeah, I completely agree, and it's really interesting because you talk to the OGs, right? Like the people that were buying it at $1 or $2. And they say the exact same thing because they met someone that bought it at like 5 cents, 10 cents, So it's just interesting the relativeness. Now, I want to hear your story in terms of the process of you getting Orange Pilled, right? Very successful entrepreneur, built companies, managed teams. Why did you feel like you had the necessity to see something like Bitcoin? What interested you in it?
I believe that a lot of times, you'll hear something many times, and then somebody will say so, or you'll see something different, and then that was your idea the whole time. So I can't tell you, because even if I go back to 2011, my technology team, which was unreal, and I trusted them on everything, why didn't I trust them here? And then you'd hear about this again, and you'd hear about it again. And so in 2017, and it wasn't a big bet, I thought, okay, I'm I'm gonna play with this. I'm gonna put some in. But it wasn't really until in 2019, 2018, 2019, as I was writing my book. And as I was writing my book, breaking down how these two systems were different, how the technology was gonna move faster and faster, and people weren't going to recognize, and what would the existing system do. It was really through that process I couldn't figure out a fix to that, because the system we lived in and most people measured in, and I lived in and measured, couldn't resolve the conflict that I was talking about, and all the human action from that system would divide us, and it would get worse and worse and worse, like we're seeing today. And so through that process, that's when I really started driving into Bitcoin, purchasing more, understanding it. But I would even say at the end of the book, I specifically didn't make it a Bitcoin book, because I wanted to, for myself too, I wanted to get to the root of the problem first. And so there was only one paragraph about Bitcoin in the book. And I've said this on multiple podcasts, but at that time, even though I was buying a lot of it, I certainly didn't understand Bitcoin like I understand it now. I assumed it had about a 5% probability of failure. I understood nodes, I understood how it worked, but some of the questions that people ask today, why it'll centralize, why it'll fail, I went through all of the same things. I would say I perhaps had when I look at some of the arguments against it, at least some of the nonsense arguments against it, I almost, like, that's cute. Because I was once there too.
Yeah.
And I spent so much time attacking this to say, my general principle was this: if 5,000 years we've never had a decentralized, secure protocol bounded by energy, and was this different enough to withstand the worst in us? The greed, the fear, the worst in us. Was this different? Could it resolve that conflict? And at first, that's why I said 5% probability of failure, is I didn't think so. I didn't think, as all of these attacks came, that this could stay decentralized and secure. And then as I got way deeper, I realized, because of the way the nodes work, because of the way the free market works, I actually can move my time into the system. And if I choose this, it doesn't matter what everybody else, as long as there's enough people who are choosing this, it's protected.
Yeah.
And then more and more people would do that.
Yeah.
They can actually move their time. And so that's what you're seeing. You're seeing more and more people move their time into this network protocol. And that their time is resulting in a whole bunch of layers of technology. If you said Lightning and Fedimint and eCash, Nostr, and other things that are being built to protect, to essentially expand the free market, while the other market is centralizing and dying. And so we are all nodes. We are literally Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And the more and more of us that are moving into it, the stronger it becomes.
The stronger it becomes, yes. It's a way of looking at the world.
Yeah.
And it's a way of protecting essentially your time and your wealth, right? But there's also a spiritual component, a philosophical component, and an ideological component that's baked into it as well.
Yeah.
Which that phenomenon is really interesting, because it's like, it's just money, but it's a lot deeper than that. Now,
so much deeper.
You said Bitcoin fails if it doesn't become a medium of exchange.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So we already talked a little bit about it. If people are centralizing, and it's the medium of exchange is in the fiat currency, then it has to fail, because they're trusting it like they trusted gold only, and gold failed. So we know for sure that if nobody's running nodes, spending in it, if you're spending in the centralizing currency, and that centralizing currency is based on theft, then you're part of the theft.
Yeah.
You're part of that economic system that has to centralize further. You might get rich in it, but it has to centralize further. Whereas if you're spending in the network protocol that's not part of that system, you're part of the first global free market that's ever existed.
Gotcha. What's really interesting, is when I hear Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick continue to essentially say that Bitcoin is a commodity. I think on another podcast he says it has to be seen as a commodity, it can't be seen as money. And then I start to connect the dots. The IMF sure did put a lot of effort into essentially trying to pressure a sovereign country into reversing the Bitcoin law that would essentially make Bitcoin legal tender. Now, if you look under the hood, it still functions as money. There's no tax implications if you use Bitcoin as money in El Salvador, but they really put a lot of effort to try to force El Salvador into saying, no, Bitcoin can't be a legal tender. It has to be something else. And I'm just connecting the dots with what Howard Lutnick is saying. It's like Bitcoin is a commodity, and then I'm connecting the dots with everything that you're saying. Do you have any thoughts on that?
This is something I saw 5 years ago, that this would have to play out this way, and people would take different sides, and it's going to be chaotic. And we won't know what side somebody is actually on until they choose and they out themselves. From first principles, the systems are incompatible together. So that would make perfect sense. The IMF, which is largely controlled by the US, World Bank and everyone else, if that was the system that they wanted, or let's not say they, certain people in parts of the government or organization wanted, it would make perfect sense that this couldn't be a currency. Perfect sense. And you would do everything possible to slow it down from being a currency. Including co-opting it and making the rails of your currency easier to transact into it. Your currency being Tether or equivalent or stable coin. Because what is a stable coin? It's a guaranteed loss coin. That's all it is. It gains its stability by losing against.
Well, I have a question for you regarding stable coins, because I think Bitcoiners have this theory that specifically in countries that had relatively stable, unstable fiat currencies, that Bitcoin was going to come in and it was going to be widely adopted. It seems like stable coins have been becoming widely adopted, specifically in the global south.
So why would that be true, and why would, a couple things. The stable coin gives 10 to 100 times better than those people's currency. Those people have always wanted US currency because it is relative to their currency. It doesn't lose money as fast.
Yeah.
So it still loses money, but it doesn't lose as fast. And now we talk about perception, right? We talk about an understanding of a system change. Of course they're going to move to stable coins because they have something that's better than this. And at the same time, 5 years ago, Bitcoin it couldn't really act as a medium of exchange. It's now being able to act as a medium of exchange. So stablecoins had an advantage there, and they had a perception advantage with a lot of people in third world nations that wanted the US dollar.
Yeah.
So it would be natural that would happen. The question is, if it's only that, then you have two different systems. That system is a centralizing system. It has to extract more and more and more. A lot of people inside it are going to get hurt eventually, and it's how many people move their time and energy to Bitcoin.
Yeah. So it's very difficult. It's been very difficult for me to fully wrap my head around. I think it was the last podcast that we did that it finally clicked in my head.
I remember that.
Yeah, right. I was like, whoa! But just for the sake of this conversation, right, the general consensus for most people right now is, or not most people, yeah, I would say most people, and the academics and the economists, they would make the argument that inflation is necessary because if without inflation people wouldn't spend, governments wouldn't be able to, pay their obligations. What would be your arguments against that?
Yeah, so let's break those down one at a time. So people wouldn't spend. So let's look at the counter argument. So your TVs, your computer equipment, anything with Moore's law attached to it falls in price each year, or you gain more value each year. Do you still buy a phone each year or every 2 years, even though 2 years later you're going to have a better phone? Answer is yes, right?
Yeah.
Do you still buy food? Answer is yes. Would you still buy food? Answer is yes. There's so many different things that you would still buy. And by the way, that argument with those things also assumes monetary pricing increase in those things. Those things would be far cheaper, but you would still buy.
Yeah.
We don't buy because the counter argument to that, if we go one step deeper, would be the only reason you buy is because if you don't, we'll steal your money. Because that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
If we don't have an inflationary rate, people won't buy.
Which is absolutely ludicrous.
Just change those words. Just change those words. We have to steal people's money, otherwise they won't buy.
Yeah.
And we have to steal more and more of it to make them buy.
Yeah.
It seems like, why would you want to build a system based on that theft? All the economists are right from the perspective of the debt-based system would collapse if you allowed deflation. And if the money, so all money is loaned into existence. When you go to a bank and get a loan, that money is created out of thin air to give you a loan, so you have an interest rate on that loan. So if all of that money globally was paid back, there was no debt.
Yeah.
There'd be no money.
Yeah.
Right? So you can see why if you allowed deflation, where prices get cheaper and cheaper, that loan gets more and more expensive because you don't have the money to be able to service the loan, and that liquidates that entire debt stack. So the economists are right from the perspective of a credit-based economy requires inflation to survive. But they're conflating, do we require a credit-based economy?
Or do they need?
Or does that system need it? That system absolutely requires it. And that system is incompatible with the free market.
And that's why it requires coercion in order to continue happening. And that's why the coercion will just continue to increase and increase and increase.
And all of those things are centralization.
Yeah.
Right. All of those things create more and more the little companies can't survive.
Yeah.
The little banks can't survive. Because it has to be centralized more and more over time. It is not a free market. It's the opposite of a free market. It has to misallocate capital. It has to, mathematically it has to. Government has to get bigger because you're usurping the free market.
Yeah.
And as you do, and those people can't live freely and have great ideas that contribute to other people in society, the centralized market has to tell them what to do. So it has to be manipulation, coercion, control everywhere in that system. And there's so much noise around conflating those two things. And that's actually that's what Bitcoin's repricing.
Yeah.
It's repricing all of that nonsense because it doesn't care. Every 10 minutes, new block. It doesn't care. It doesn't care what Powell says.
Yeah.
It doesn't care what Trump says. It doesn't care what she says. It doesn't care.
TikTok next blog, and then I love this website called Priced in Bitcoin.
Yeah, totally.
And it just shows you just like everything goes down.
Energy prices, house prices, food prices, all prices. Why would that happen? Because the natural state of the free market is deflation, and Bitcoin is pricing it perfectly. Yeah. First global free market.
Yeah, and then you see, and then it's interesting because when you see that, and then you compare and contrast with what the politicians are seeing on TV, and you're like, we kind of already fixed this problem.
It's already fixed,
right?
Yeah.
So
and so now let's say you're three different people, three different buckets of people. One, you're you and I. We price in Bitcoin, and many other Bitcoiners that understand this at this end. We price in Bitcoin. We spend all our time in Bitcoin. We spend as much time as we can in it. We contribute our time to this new global system. What would our lives look like? Direct response of this competitive. It would be a mirror image. The more time you spent, it would get better and better in that system. You're a Bitcoiner that prices in the fiat system, right? You think Bitcoin's going up, and from your perspective, it is going up. You're likely to centralize your coins. You're likely to take more risk. But for you, you're making more money. Your asset is going up. You think it's only an asset. Your asset is going up faster than other assets. Yeah. And from your perspective, you're right too. You're not in Bitcoin at all. You're this camp, the middle camp that's pricing Bitcoin. You're not in Bitcoin at all. Your government is telling you that those big monopolies are stealing your money and you need to vote for me. Yeah. You're right too. And you're getting destroyed over and over and over again. Or you're on the other side of that, and you think it's the socialists, and you're on the technocrat side that's transferring more power, control. You're right too. That's what. So from your perspective on this system, all would exist.
It seems like as a movement, because this is really what this is. We have a major narrative problem. Like we need more education, more narrative, at least to get people on our side, or would you say that isn't even necessary?
Not really. So in a decentralized secure protocol, it's bound to be. It's never existed. It never existed in human history. It's our own cognitive dissonance falling away, coming to understand the truth, that then moves more people over. But it's there is no one narrative in Bitcoin, and I don't know if there should be any one narrative in Bitcoin.
I would say maybe not the narrative of Bitcoin, but I'm saying the narrative versus the existing system, the fiat system versus the Bitcoin system.
Well, I do, you know this, do a ton of podcasts, and let's just use you and I as an example. And this is how I think about it, just about everybody in the world. And you meet people, they impact you positively or negatively or whatever, and you come away changed.
Yeah.
Our conversation, when the light bulb went on, right, it changed your perspective.
Of course.
Yeah. And so before that, you were in that middle camp about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you went deeper.
Yeah.
And I did a podcast with Natalie recently that I think now has 185,000 views. And that wasn't supposed to be a podcast. She was writing her book. We were really good friends. She's read my book 3 times, and she was writing her book, and she couldn't explain to her editor what I meant. So she said, "Could we just do a non-podcast? Can you just help me through this?"
Yeah.
And it was through that then she released it as a podcast because it clicked for her.
Yeah.
It clicked how different it was. But it took a long time to get there. Same with Peter McCormack.
Yeah.
Like I think I was on his podcast 3 or 4 times.
Yes.
And the light finally went on to what I was saying.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like I've been saying this over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But that's why I say it's the cognitive dissonance from moving from one system to another, and I went through it too.
It's very difficult because you're in the matrix, right? To use that example, you're in the matrix and you're trying to imagine a world outside of the matrix, and it's unimaginable.
Yeah, it is imaginable. Like for me, for me at least, I think, maybe I'm totally wrong, but I think it's perfectly clear. It's perfectly clear. Maybe I'm a terrible, maybe the problem is I can't explain it very well. But I see a world with 8 billion people in service of 8 billion people. I see a world that looks totally unlike.
What is that world 10 years from now? Describe it.
So in 10 years, it still probably isn't all the way there. So what would get it all the way there? Our choices. Okay. Will most people make the choice that I'm making or you've already made within 10 years? Unlikely.
Which is reclaim their sovereignty. But
spend your time in a free market completely.
What about the Bitcoin scaling? Vast majority of people won't be able to transact on the main chain.
So one of the words I use is open, decentralized, secure protocol bounded by money or by energy. So if you use the word protocol, technologies are winner take most. Protocols are winner take all. It's really important. Open protocols win, and we saw that the last protocol anybody knows about, probably before electricity, would be the internet, and it comes in layers, right? And so the internet all around the globe, you have a choice to be on it or off of it. North Korea is off of it, right? Their citizens can't get on it. Look at what happens to the country. Even if you're in China behind the Great Firewall, you run a VPN, you can have all of the internet. Nobody can stop it. So, but how did it emerge? It came in layers.
Yeah.
The first layer was by DARPA in the late 60s.
Yeah.
And to Tim Berners-Lee in 1989. It took 20 years of layers to be able to build the internet. And then all of the innovation that happened on top of that took another, call it 20 years. Just about everything we do is on top of that protocol. Protocol today. And most people, when they're talking about Bitcoin today, they're talking about Bitcoin like it emerged in 1989. Right.
Okay.
And they're comparing it to the internet.
You think that's where we are in Bitcoin?
No. When I'm talking about Bitcoin, I'm talking about where we were in 1969.
Right now.
No. The Bitcoin that you know that most people are talking about as a store of value.
Yeah.
Is the first layer of the protocol.
Okay.
TCP/IP.
Yeah.
The next layer comes in and is a transport layer, like lightning, liquid. That would be another layer, or kind of layer 2 and 2.5. And each of these layers has trade-offs but provides more functionality without having another coin, without having a bridge to another coin, without having a tether, without having I understand some of the things that people wanted through the block size wars. I understand some of the things people wanted through privacy coins and other, because what they were saying is, if this doesn't have privacy, it will be killed. And if you just said that, they're right? Because if you said later on the centralization, and if you didn't have privacy, one of the reasons why the nodes in Bitcoin it makes it so secure is you can't find all these nodes all over the place. Yeah, right. They're all hidden behind Tor browsers, and they're all over globally distributed. So if you use that same example and you said you had if Bitcoin was an open monetary network and you could see everybody's transactions, right, which it is. If everything's centralized in the government and everybody could see that, then eventually you would expect those people to be at risk. So I completely understand the privacy aspect of why people wanted a privacy coin. But those people it had to be bounded by energy, decentralized and secure first. You had to add privacy in layers, right? You had to add, so that's what Fedimint does. That's what the Cashew does. You add privacy, and in Fedimint, now you essentially replicate that node nature of Bitcoin and you have maybe thousands, millions of federations in time, all self-sovereign, that provide privacy, abstraction, communication privacy, and such. And this is very early still, but it gives a scaling layer that cannot be found, and it gives the resiliency to Bitcoin that can scale all around the globe without that attack vector. These things needed to be in place before this system centralized. Yes. Right. And that's what I'm talking about in the free market. Whether it's Fedi, whether it's Cashew, whether it's Nostr, it's a combination of all of these things, predicting where the value would need to be, building in layers on top of Bitcoin, that build this parallel system. Literally you have a parallel internet being built that everything's going to move to. Yeah. In time, and so you have to, which is peer-to-peer, which the internet we know of got captured and consolidated, and you're being farmed in it. Yeah, because of that centralized knowledge. Everything in that is essentially farming you. It's essentially like if I send you even Signal, right? I send you a Signal message. It's me, Signal server, you. Yeah. Right. Where is that Signal server? You're trusting that Signal server is, doing the right thing. And then I have a buddy, founder of Start9, Matt Hill. Yeah. And you can essentially run your own server at home. And instead of me sending a message to a server, then sending it to you, it'd be my server is sending a message to your server. It's direct through Tor. Totally. And it's peer-to-peer. And that's a great service. There's a really good example of a service that builds up, or Start9, that builds up to solve this problem and extends the protocol in a whole bunch of different ways that allow you to escape that matrix, and more people do it because they realize that the true cost of that centralization. And so who owns the server firms? Who owns you can't even find the numbers, but the NSA probably runs the most compute. Yeah. Where did that money come from? From the running that most? It is coming from the same centralizing system, and all of your stuff is going through that. China would have a similar thing. So all of the people inside this system that think that they're making these free choices, that system is changing your mind. Right? When you go to Google, when you go to Facebook, and what you see, it's actually feeding the thing that. Is this why you've chosen to opt out of X and go to Nostr? Completely. Yeah. Because, you know this. I'm not trying to be popular. My time matters, right? I had left behind 375,000 followers on X because there was no fix from that system, and I found it hypocritical when Elon was talking about free speech and what that would look like when you know it can't be. Yeah. When you know the centralized system can't be, he makes different decisions in U.S. than he does in China. Yeah. Right. Why? Because he wants to sell cars there.
Yeah.
Right? Why? He wants to sell satellite. And all of these things are inside that system. Nostr is exactly the same as Bitcoin. Right? We're very similar. Similar conversations, well, Nostr won't work, it doesn't have as much value as this. What do you think people said about Bitcoin earlier?
Same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's just earlier.
Yeah.
Right? And I realized I could move my time to the thing that was earlier and make a difference in that thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin? For more than 6 years now, Ledin has been the trusted source for Bitcoin-backed lending, with transparency, security, and trust at their core. Backed by $9 billion of Bitcoin loans funded and over 1,000 5-star reviews. I absolutely love these guys because of their flexibility. You can pay back your loan whenever you want. And there are no monthly payments, so you pay at the end of the term. You get lightning fast access to capital. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you get the cash into your account within 18 hours. Unlock the liquidity of your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. Simply Bitcoin viewers get 0.25% off their first loan by using the link in the video/podcast description. What are you waiting for? Check out Ledin today. Now, one of the things that you've told me in the past that absolutely fascinated me is that you said AI is dangerous under a fiat standard. AI is safe under a Bitcoin standard. What do you mean by that?
Well, I just did this podcast with George Gammon that it's funny. George, it's the same thing that you just said. Like, I wrote in my book that because of the exponential change in AI, I wrote a paragraph that said, we measured AI today in decades. Very shortly, we'll be measuring in years, then quarters, then months, then minutes, then seconds. And so what's happening right now is that's happening. What is that? It's productivity gains at a massive scale, a staggering scale. So if you don't use AI in your business, I'm sure you're probably starting to use it in your podcasting. You have to, right?
Yeah.
But you don't have to. But if you don't, your cost is way higher and you can't compete.
Yeah.
Right. And if you do it, your cost is way lower. And so you are going to remove labor and use AI. Otherwise, you won't be a business.
Yeah.
Other people will be.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you do business? Because people will follow the business that's cheaper, better, faster. Right? They'll follow that instead of go for the higher, slower, more expensive business.
Yeah.
So every business, because we're on the other side of it, searching for more value, has to use AI. Every person has to use AI. And so that's staggering productivity gains. And those people that are working today, what do?
They have to manually do it.
No, I'm saying, what do the people that are going to be replaced by the AI do? There were this many jobs, and now there's this many less jobs. Where do those people go?
They don't. Like, where is there to go?
So perfect. Now let's follow. So we know for sure AI is going to happen faster and faster. We know for sure we're going to use it, right? We know for sure we're going to choose more value from the companies that use it. Right? In other words, one day you could have one company producing you, or one company with one person giving you so much value because of the tools. That company replaces thousands of people that gave you the same value before, or what you did before. So you'll use that. Where do those people go?
Where do they go?
In the world I describe on Bitcoin, prices fall by exactly the rate that those people go.
Wait, what? Why?
Because it's productivity, the productivity that we choose, the prices fall by that. They don't need the job anymore because prices keep falling and falling and falling.
Oh my God, okay. See, it's another Jeff Booth mind-breaking moment.
But it's funny that maybe I'm just bad at communicating it. Because that's what
what did I say last time? The penny dropped? The penny dropped twice.
They keep falling forever. And so the job that you think you need to pay for the artificial prices that are going up is only needed because of the artificial prices going up. It's not needed. You live in abundance. You continually live in. If prices kept falling, If prices fell by 5% a year, then 10% a year as the natural course, and then 15%.
Okay, but wait,
and
hold on.
20%.
If people lived in abundance, what incentive would you have to build things, for example?
So there's always going to be things to solve.
Okay.
Always. In the free market, you get paid more than somebody else for creating value. How do you get paid? You get paid by creating value for somebody else.
Yeah.
The more people you create value for, the more you get paid. Then what happens? Somebody sees the value you're making, and they compete with you, and they remove your value, and you have to compete harder and harder to provide more value. And the output of that is all prices continue to fall. You win, they win, everyone wins. Because even if you weren't part of that equation, those people competing create value for you when prices are allowed to be in the free market. The only way you lose from that equation is if you live in a centralized market. The prices are artificially made to rise.
I see what you're saying.
Right? So then you would lose your job. All prices are higher.
And you wouldn't be
you don't know what to do.
And you wouldn't be able to.
So you turn to the government who's creating the problem and you say, save me.
Save me.
And they create a new program to save you. That where does money come from? From you.
Yeah.
In this world, you just get better and better. It is the perfect expression of humankind trading with each other in service of humankind.
That is.
And Bitcoin is imposing that discipline. If you own part of Bitcoin, you are already part of that system.
That is mind-blowing. So what about highly centralized countries that essentially depend on this top-down control of their population?
They'll get eradicated. So Bitcoin is terrible for dictators.
Okay.
Why?
So you see the CCP essentially.
So why was the CCP so against Bitcoin? Because it's terrible for dictators.
Of course.
It's terrible for a centralized planning system.
That's why they want a CBDC.
Yeah. But again, why many other nations are wanting CBDCs is the same reason. A really good friend of mine, Alvaro, runs the Democracy Lab in Costa Rica, and he has some stats that I think it was 10 years ago, 47% of humanity lived in somewhat democracies, right? So 53% lived in dictatorships. Now, only 10 years later, I think it's like 82% live in somewhat dictatorships. The trend is getting worse and worse and worse. Why would it get worse and worse and worse? Because the dictator rises because of the manipulation of money. Typically what happens is you go socialism first.
Yeah.
And because socialism can't fix that problem, right? Eventually someone moves to fascism to take back control, and they consolidate more power, dictator, and consolidate more control. You can't fix that problem because it's all based on money coming artificially from somebody else that should go to them, to you. This is why the problem looks like it.
But can't they fund the men with guns? And can't the free market system not fund the men with guns as efficiently as the centralized system?
Nodes. All coming back to nodes, same as nodes on Fediment. If there was one node in Bitcoin, if Bitcoin was completely open, everybody could see it, eventually the men with guns, let's first one node. Men with guns would go kill that person. It would be over. The honest system has never prevailed because the honest system was always outed. If you were honest against this, overwhelming force against you. This system, because it's decentralized and secure, and that decentralization is hidden around the world, you can't stop it. Stop one person, keeps going. Stop two people, keeps going.
To make an analogy, I'm connecting dots, Jeff. This is why all the guerrilla warfare was as successful as it was. Like, you look at Vietnam, if you look at Afghanistan was invaded by the British, the Soviets, and the Americans. Some super centralized force,
you can't win
latest technology, and they got beat by a bunch of independent nodes with AK-47s.
Yeah. And now this is the opposite.
Is that a fair analogy?
Yeah, but that's a war analogy to do it. This is a peaceful analogy to do it, because all you have to do is move to a node, you can hide your node behind a Tor browser, you can be part of this network, and the more people that are part of this network running nodes, the more safe and secure you are in a group that it cannot be found, a globally distributed group. That's what's protecting it. That's actually why I think Fedi and Fediment is such a big deal, because it expands that ability for you to do that in a complete private way, and gives you all of your friends and people that your communications private, nodes are private, and it expands essentially that node model. Yeah, in a Guardian type of model into a way that extends the network. But yes, that's ultimately it can't be stopped.
That's so fast. Again, you have to zoom out. You have to think outside of the matrix to understand this new system, and it's difficult because it's not intuitive. But once you point it out, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, so what you have to do, and what I did, what you're doing, once you see it, you can, and then you choose to move your time towards it and be part of it. But the first step is this true? Like, could this actually resolve this paradox that we've always lived in? We've always lived in a control system. Could we actually live in something else? And when you understand Satoshi's brilliance in creating this and what this looks like, and the cypherpunks that risk their lives to be able to free money from state, but now that network, how big it is already, and how many people are there, and it's expanding faster and faster. Kind of have to ask yourself, why would I want to live in this other system when I can live in this system?
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about MicroStrategy and what they're doing?
I think Michael is inventing a playbook for this, and I think he's a genius in this, and he's creating an incredible vehicle to take advantage of kind of the fiat world moving into the Bitcoin world. There is the centralization risk on some of that. But he has no more vote in the network than I have, in the network. I'm a node, he's a node. Right now, I think he's very good for Bitcoin. I think he's great. We'll see in time. And again, when I say cheat and everything else, I'm talking from a game theoretical perspective. Eventually, in time, every single person is going to be forced to choose the global free market or the centralized coin. It's going to, and so we'll see in time what people choose when they choose it. But no, I think he's been fantastic for Bitcoin. I think I own MicroStrategy in my RSD. I think it's a fantastic investment. I think he's great.
So it's essentially it's a net positive.
Yeah.
But over time, essentially, will kind of reveal.
For me, I've never looked up to people with money. I've never looked up to people with power. I've never looked down to people without money or down to people. I see everybody as equal. I just see everybody as a genius in their own capacity, and then I watch for who do I want to be around. And I can be friends with two people with vastly different, I can disagree with both of them in some different ways, but also really like both of them. So I try to take the personalities out of this and go back to first principles. And from a first principle, the natural state of the free market is deflation. And so what does that mean when most people in the world don't know that?
Yeah.
What it means is people are going to choose for the control system or the free market. And in time, and they're going to be forced to choose, and we'll just watch what they choose.
So when it's first principles, Jeff. So you apply that to relationships, like when you're talking to someone, or let's say I'm sure a lot of people want to meet you, Jeff, right? Is that something that you take into account?
Everything.
What's the equation in your head? Is this person going to be more centralized?
No, not in that in a relationship. All I care about in a relationship. I tend to look through kind of the noise and so at somebody, and I try to see the best in them.
Okay.
That's I don't have to agree with everything they are, but in a relationship, I care about the best in that person, and typically, typically, always. I'm not talking about that person behind their back ever.
Of course.
If I have something to say, I say it to them directly. And so in all my relationships, I would say I'm very present in the relationships of you and I.
Yeah.
Right? Even if we don't see each other for a long time, there's a closeness.
We continue where we left off.
And it's very real. Right? It is very, and it doesn't even have to be real for you. It's real for me. Yeah. That's how I feel about you. That's how I feel about anybody I would spend any time in my life. And a friend of mine said to his son, who then said to me, he never said it to me, this friend going back to when I was 10 years old, one of my really good buddies. He said to his son, so his son said, my dad told me to learn from you, that you take the best from everybody and allow them to be who they are. And then talk about the best in those people. And so that meant a lot, because I didn't even know his dad saw that.
Yeah.
Right? So, but that's how I would say virtually all of my relationships look like.
Has that ever worked against you, seeing the best in people?
For sure, there's some people who will try to take advantage of you. If I thought about a line here, and I said, on this side I'm wide open, living in kind of the way I want all the time, and the risk is sometimes people take advantage of that. Then that would be, but the benefit is I see way more great people, and I learn way more. I see hope. So it's a strategy that's different from a strategy of seeing the worst in people, closing myself up, and seeing less people, right? And I just think that strategy has way better odds of success.
Can you have friends within the same industry?
What do you mean?
Can you have friends within the industry?
In Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Why not?
It's very competitive.
But it's competitive. Every single person in this industry, every single person benefits me, because we're living in the first global free market. Whether I disagree with them or not, whether they win and my company loses, or we all win. We're living in a world, because it's a competitive global free market, where every single Bitcoiner benefits me.
Because they're working towards
and I benefit them.
The adoption of Bitcoin.
And I benefit them.
Remember, guys are saying it's Saylor the employee. Who is the Bitcoin employee of the month?
So what I would say is it's actually probably way below the people we talk about, including me, every day. It's people that are unsung heroes. The fight that's going on right now between Core and Knots, some of the Core developers, some of the Knots developers, all of this thing, the unsung heroes are all of us doing that thing, making Bitcoin strong.
And what do you think about what's happening between Core and Knots? Another little mini civil war. It's not as bad as the block size.
Yeah, I don't think this is a civil war. I can see both arguments. Bitcoin Mechanic is a good friend, and I think when it becomes this is just the way it is on Core, I don't like that. But I can also understand from the Core developers that this can be a hostile situation to be a Core developer and constantly in this battle all the time, because people care so much.
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to take a side in it, because I can see both sides.
Okay. You know, when I started Simply many years ago, maybe I was young and naive. I would start the show with, you will be your guide through the separation of money and state. And talking to you, it kind of revitalizes that outlook that I have, right? Which is, I think you identify that, the state, whether they do it on purpose, it's all about incentives, right? Really does cause a tremendous amount of harm, whether intentional or unintentional, manipulating money. So when I talk to you, you are describing a world where money and state will be separated.
It will be separated. No matter what, it's going to be separated.
It's just a matter of how long it will take.
It's just timing. This is, again, this is imposing, as long as it stays decentralized and secure. Every time I say, as long as it stays decentralized and secure, what I'm really hoping people hear by that is I have a choice. Okay. I can be part of the network. I can run a node today. I can spend more Bitcoin. I can spend money in Bitcoin. And I have a choice to keeping it decentralized and secure, and nobody can take that choice from me. When I say as long as it stays decentralized and secure, what I'm really saying is claim your choice. Right. Okay. Claim that for you, and you will protect that network, and you'll see more opportunity in it. If you think it's hard right now to do it, learn how to do it. It's not very hard. It's not very hard.
No, it's not. It's become way easier. 10 years ago, it was like practically impossible. Yeah. Now you can buy a pre-built open source node, multiple hardware wallet manufacturers, right? Big fan of Cold Collar, of course. What are your thoughts on the strategic Bitcoin reserve announcement coming out of the US government?
Of course, governments are going to want to acquire more, right? Ken Sim, a friend of mine, mayor of Vancouver, wants to acquire it on Vancouver's balance sheet. Why? Because if he acquires it on the balance sheet, then the money in Vancouver can't be debased, and the services can go further in Vancouver. That would be the same in any country. It would be the same thing that would happen in your own personal life, would happen at a business, would happen at a state, would happen at a city, would happen at a country. Exactly the same thing. So why wouldn't states, countries, cities all do the same thing? They will, for sure. They're going to do that. And they're going to be in competition with other people doing it. But as people talk about that, I'm just thinking, just go buy more yourself.
Yeah.
So you can front run government still. Right? You can front run most of the global corporations still. That is going to go on forever. Right? We're so early in this adoption curve that I would love to see the Bitcoin going into more and more individual hands.
Yeah. Do you think we've peaked in the amount of whole coiners?
Good question. I don't know. Probably not, because I think a lot of the coiners, the people who hold today, will sell for fiat dollars, and they'll retire and move on, and other people will replace them.
Okay. What I've noticed, Jeff, I think last year, really the last 6 or 7 months of last year, I went through this kind of experience and simply where I had a very, very strong, we're going to remain neutral politically. We are not going to pick sides. We're not going to say anything because we believe that our message has to be all inclusive, right? That's how you get people on your side of the football. And I think that really switched when Operation Choke Point 2.0 really started to accelerate, and you had the arrests of the Samurai Wallet developers.
That's crazy.
You had Ross Ulbricht, essentially 2 life sentences, and then very wisely and intelligently, you had 2 candidates coming in there and basically saying, hey, Bitcoiners, if you elect me, I'm going to free Ross, and I'm going to end Operation Choke Point 2.0. And I remember when I started talking about politics, I got so much heat from Bitcoiners because we do believe in the theory from the sovereign individual, which is Bitcoin is going to essentially make politics irrelevant over the long run. But I think in this last election, if we did nothing, Ross would still be in prison. So my question to you is fiat voting still important?
I think yes. And I agree with you for the same reasons. So I've been close to Pierre Poilievre, and he understands us from the sand and in Canada, and I helped him understand this. I helped him create self-custody. I helped him and his wife create self-custody, and he, so far as 3-4 weeks ago, maybe a little longer ago now, called and said, listen, Jeff, as we do this, how do we make the transition? How do we make this transition from this system that looks like this to this system? And prior to that, a year ago, at one point as he was going down the rabbit hole, he asked the same thing you asked earlier on, how does this protect it? He asked, are you safe? He asked, are you safe? because as he was going down, and he was politician, party, understands seat, gets a whole bunch of the information from and he realizes how broken and how corrupt the system is, and that's why ES was safe. So I built a personal relationship with him because he's sound money. Do I think he's perfect or anything else? Who knows, right? But the best in him, what I was saying before, he understands sound money and why it's so important. So I, for the first time in any time, I kind of went out on a limb and said this, and got the same thing that you just said. And Carney was like, we have a central banker, like a major central banker that's going to pivot Canada further to the left, and is going to provide a lot more danger, or the track that Canada's on is going to get worse, a lot worse, because it's fundamentally unsolvable from that system. And most people I know are on that side. It was staggering to me because they also know who I am. Yeah. So, and it was staggering to me to watch that, and them still in the matrix.
So I'm gonna move the Overton window. I posted this on my X account, and I'll give a little bit of context. Really, the last century was really between two superpowers, right? Which is you had the communist system and we know there was a free market, but the more free market system, right? And I posted this on my X account, which I know you don't use, but I'm gonna post it on my Nostr account after this. I'll zap it. But I basically said the future of capitalism is Bitcoin. The future of socialism is our central bank digital currencies. And then that's kind of led me down the rabbit hole. I'm going to move the Overton window here, Jeff. Are current left-wing politics compatible with a Bitcoin standard?
Our current left-wing aren't, our current right-wing aren't. They're both incompatible.
But I think the right-wing is more open to Bitcoin. And I'll give you an example.
So I agree with you. So more, if you were more of a free market person, you would probably see Bitcoin first. But that being said, there's a lot of progressives. Like if you said Troy Cross and a whole bunch of who are incredible people that also understand Bitcoin's the only way that they can solve.
It's not monolithic. Yeah. I completely agree with you. Yeah. But there was a vote, and I asked Senator Lummis this in DC a couple months ago, and she was like, "That's a good question." So I asked her this. I said, "There was a vote in the House last year, and the vote was essentially forbidding the federal government from launching a central bank digital currency. It wasn't monolithic, but let's just say the vast majority of the right voted for the bill, and the vast majority of the left voted against the bill." Yeah. And if you take a look at some of the Fed's recent actions, you can make a very strong, I mean, it doesn't help that Trump's calling Powell a loser on Truth Social, but you can make the case that a lot of the Fed's recent actions were political in terms of trying to help Kamala elected. And if you look at the fifth tenet of the Communist Manifesto, it makes the case for the necessity of a central bank.
There is no capitalism or communism with a central bank. You just said the fifth tenet of the communist. It's the same system. It's exactly the same system. If you manipulate money, if you have centralized control of money and everything else resolves around centralized control of money, then capitalism and communism is exactly the same system. Has to be.
Yeah.
So that is the problem. And so when we say left or right on that, and I would say most people don't understand that, and maybe more right people on the right haven't quite gotten to this, but maybe some have gotten there. Ron Paul obviously have been talking about this for forever, and you're starting to see the same things he said emerge. So there are certainly more people on the right that would see it.
Is it a more viable vehicle to?
No, they're both the same. They both end in the same place. They both end in the same place. So when I talk about Canada and when I talk about Bitcoin, for Canada that mattered. For Bitcoin it doesn't. When you're talking about the state for the US,
it's the same.
Same thing. When you're talking about this battle, and again for the left-right battle, for the US, it matters a lot that you vote for Bitcoin if you wanted to stay in the US. For Bitcoin, it doesn't matter.
But do you see what I mean? That like it does matter to vote for the right if you want Bitcoin to be.
Well, I guess I don't want to impose my beliefs on somebody else.
I totally, and this is the conundrum that I went through personally, because I'm like, wait a second, like, no. I want to be inclusive in my messaging. I have a lot of friends that do great work. You mentioned a couple of them. I love the Progressive Case for Bitcoiner guys. I have them on my show all the time. They're incredible. I give them credit because they're like in a hornet's nest. I'm like, dude, guys, keep doing what you're doing. But at the same time, I can't deny the reality. And the reality was, if I voted for Kamala, Ross would still be in prison. And in Canada, it's the same thing.
Same thing. The perpetrator of all of the damage against the trucking thing and the loss of individual rights and freedoms and the media, that whole party, most of the people in that party are still elected. It's been 10 years. Canada's standard of living is going down lower and lower and lower. All of these problems are getting worse and worse and worse because of the same thing. And we just elected it again. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Now, the question is on the resolve so I agree, Pierre would have ripped out a bunch of that and created a path to something that looked better, and hopefully Bitcoin would have been a big part of that path, and it would have accelerated Bitcoin in Canada. And it would have made my life easier in Canada. Now I have to make a decision.
Yes.
Do I exit? Where do I exit? What does that look like? And I think that's going to happen over and over. If you read my LinkedIn post on this, I said exactly, I don't have to impose my beliefs, but I can tell you my why, right? And my why, if I was in the US, would have been exactly what you just said.
And I think it's very important to focus on the first part of what you just said about imposing your beliefs on someone else. Even, it doesn't matter how right you think you are, let that individual make their own decision. And I remember I was telling my co-host, like Opti, I was like, Opti, we might have to move to El Salvador, my friend, right? During the previous election. And I was half joking, right? The US has a little bit more, the states have a little bit more sovereignty.
That's actually what creates so the way the Constitution is written and your power to slow or stop this from happening. But what ends up happening is money is subordinate to law.
Yeah.
You could see the Constitution being chipped away.
Of course.
Right, because of broken money.
Yes.
And because of the central bank, and because of the relationship to money, because money is subordinate to law, and money is subordinate to a piece of paper, right, that protects your rights. The way that this was formed in the US certainly protected your rights better than it did in Canada and other nations. In fact, the US is because of that long ago fight for independence, and because of the Constitution, and because all rights are created equal, I think it is so in kind of the spirit of people in the US that they're not willing to let that die, which is really good for both the US and it's also good for Bitcoin.
And my question to you is, Jeff, at what point do I don't want to say stand and fight from a kinetic sense, but at what point, and this is where I felt I was at a crossroads, and you just said yourself, you felt like you needed to vote as well.
Yeah.
At what point do Bitcoiners say, we need to hold the line here?
So I think this comes down to, I think what Bitcoiners are doing are both holding the line. And again, decentralized secure protocol, bound by energy, people are going to make any decision, and all decisions kind of form where we're going. So there's going to be lots of fights. Some people are going to take that fight. Some people are going to just rise above it and just keep on building faster. And they're like a Gandhi, right? They're still fighting, but they're fighting on something that can't be attacked.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're using their energy differently. So I think I think with what's coming, how chaotic this is going to be, it's going to be all of the above that's going to, as we move over there. When I think about my energy, is my energy better? So Brad Mills said just recently. So do you want to help create kind of political party? Do you want to help move some of these laws? And for me, not a chance.
No.
So I can move my energy from where it is now, helping entrepreneurs build products, technology that expand this network and move faster and faster and faster and stay there. or I could take it and do that. Right? It's a no-brainer. Where's your best energy? Where should you focus it?
Yeah. What message do you have for future generations? And the reason I'm asking this question is I just had a daughter about a year ago or so. She's walking now.
That's so cool.
It's a little human. I can't believe how that works. But you know, what I find fascinating is that she was born into a world where Bitcoin exists.
Yeah.
Versus you and I, we essentially, you know, we grew up in a world where Bitcoin didn't exist when we were born. It didn't exist for a big portion of our lives. And then we found it. She's going to be Bitcoin native.
Totally.
Because I'm going to be telling her, listen, download a wallet, you know, download Sparrow.
Yeah.
Watch some tutorials, right? What message would you have for future generations?
It's very hopeful, especially if she has a dad like you. But you're early on this. You're understanding it. You understand all the stuff that's coming across, and you're curious enough to keep going. And so, if you think of people with integrity in your life, right? Like, what would you want your kids to see? Like, would you want them to see that you're aligned in that integrity and everything else? And a lot of times when you get to, I think all the time, when you get to the bottom of the Bitcoin rabbit hole and you make that commitment, that's who you are. Your daughter's going to see that. She's going to grow up with it, and she's going to benefit from not just that in that system, but as that system expands, she's going to see all of the hope and promise of that system, whereas some others aren't. They're not going to be. In fact, if you just ask what you do on your podcast, why did I come here? Why is your podcast successful? It's successful because you're touching people. You're making an impact on other people's lives, and that's expanding, and you can feel it expanding because you're making that positive impact. That's what the free market looks like. That's what Bitcoin looks like, and that's what the more and more people who step out of that world are going to look like. So your daughter is going to bathe in it every day. She's going to be part of that, and so it's super hopeful.
That was very touching, and I really appreciate it. Very powerful, Jeff, and you know, I hope everyone who's watching understands, right? If they have kids, you know, they can see that as well, if they're Bitcoiners.
Kids, my kids now are 21, 19, and 17, and close, like incredible, they're each incredible family. We're so close. Watching kind of that closeness and everything else out of the same thing, kids don't do what you tell them to do. Kids do what you show them to do. They learn way more by who you are, how you show up, than what you tell them. And so if you show up in congruence, if you show up authentic, if you show up with integrity, that's what your kids will see.
My final question to you, Jeff, what legacy do you want to leave through your work?
Just impact. Just, impact, positive impact on other people.
Love it.
Yeah.
Jeff Booth.
Thanks.
An honor. Thank you so much.
You too.